Hi everybody, I am Seunghye Sun, Director of Korean Culture Center. Today, I have a special guest. I am very honored to have architect Kang DaeHwa as the series of Korean Culture Now 2024. Today, we are going to talk about the beauty of Korean architecture. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's really my pleasure to be here to talk about Korean architecture. Hello, my name is DaeHwa Kang. I'm an architect based in London for the last 20 years. I was born in Korea. I was educated in the United States. And here I am in London doing projects in London, in the Middle East, and also in the Far East, including Korea. I'm speaking in English to reach a broader audience among our European and American colleagues. But of course, my heart belongs in Korea, so I'll try and fit in a little bit of Korean if I can here and there. 안녕하세요. 건축가 강대화입니다. 한국에서 태어나고 미국에서 자르고 영국에서 지난 20년 동안 지금 활동하면서 영국, 중동, 한국에 지금 설계하고 공사를 지금 하고 있는 중입니다.
한국어에서 느껴지는 그 어떤 깊은 울림이 지금 느껴졌습니다.
아, 네. 네. 참, 우리 가족이랑 얘기할 때,
네.
사실은 우리 와이프분은 제가 한국어로 말할 때하고 영어하고 말할 때는 퍼스널리티가 완전히 달라진대요. 그래서
네.
자기는 사실
네.
제가 이제 한국말 하는 것만 너무 좋아하고 영어를 할 때는 왜 이렇게 막 딱딱하고 막 어그레시브하냐고 막 그러면서
네.
한국말은 좀 약간 부드러운 정서가 있다는 저런 느낌? 그리고 저도 이제 한국어를 제대로 된 교육을 못 받았으니까 그래서 조금 더 이제 순수한 그냥 뜻만 전할 수 있는 약간의 그런 느낌이에요, 저는. 네.
그럼 얘기 들어가기에 앞서서 조금 어린 시절에서 한국에서 언제 태어나셔서 어떻게 미국에 가셔서 어떤 삶의 좀 과정을 듣고 싶습니다.
네, 부산에 태어나고요. 2살 때 미국으로 이민 갔습니다. 부모님들이 이제 공부하러 가셨는데
네.
오레곤주 서부에 산하고 바다 사이에 그냥 자르면서 어린 시절 거기서 보내고요. 그리고 이제 대학교 갈 때는 이제 그 동부 프린스턴 대학교하고 예일 대학교에서 이제 학부 석사 건축 공부를 했습니다.
네. 그러면 미국에서 하셨는데 그러면은 그 다음에 또 한국에 가실 기회가 있으셨을까요?
네, 아무래도 집에서는 이제 한국말을 많이 썼지만 그래도 이제 그 대학교 다니고 나서는 아무래도 이제 한국 문화에 대해서 조금 더 많이 배우고 싶어서
네.
이제 기회를 잡아가지고 한국에 1년 동안 강사로 갔습니다. 그래서 우연히 그게 이제 경주. 경주를 가게 됐습니다.
그러면 여기서 제가 이제 첫 번째 질문을 이제 드리고 싶습니다. So, first question is, how do you think about the essence, the most important core of Korean architecture in UK or in United States or all over the world?
Yeah, I think when we think about Korea, the most important thing for me is to understand its culture. And its and the power that Korean culture and society has today. Right now, as we know, for those of us in London, we've seen the Hallyu exhibition at the V&A Museum, and hugely successful. And one of the things really is that Korean architecture does not stand alone. So we have architecture within the broader context, Korean technology, Korean car design, Korean food design, music, film, drama. And architecture is one piece of that great wave that's going across the world right now. So it's really clear to me that there's a huge amount of interest in Korean culture. And that means that there are a lot of people who are interested in Korean architecture. So for people like that, if they want to get deeper into what is it about Korean architecture, then I think we have to think about what is it about Korean society, because Korean architecture, just like Korean society, has two very strong contrasts for me. So one thing, I don't know if you feel this, but for me, Korea has really a very big contrast between the old history and the future. And the history is so historical and the future is so futuristic. And in history, it's being close to nature, it's being very calm, it is about really ancient values. but then the future is all about dynamism and creativity and reinventing constantly. So I think Korean architecture has maybe both of those.
Both of those.
Yeah.
And really, I totally agree with your idea. So sometimes I can call it dynamics of change because Korea in architecture, including just architecture and other Korean cultures, and have both. Very traditional and very old tradition, and there is something very new and technologically and cutting edge one. Can you just take some more examples you can contrast and something traditional architecture and very new or kind of contemporary architecture in your mind?
Yes, absolutely. So when I think about Korean architecture, the first thing that comes to mind is 25 years ago when I went and I lived in Gyeongju. And that was the ancient capital of Korea. For 1,000 years, it was the capital of Shilla dynasty. And I just think about the sun rising over Seokguram Grotto, and I think about Bulguksa Temple.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I was already studying architecture, so I used to draw all of the architecture to study it. And they would let me sleep. When they saw my drawings, they liked my drawings, so they let me sleep in the temple.
Yeah.
So then I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the monks, and then I could see the sun rising in front of Seokgatap, for instance.
Oh.
And this is a very representative to me about that ancient connection with nature, with tradition that I found so beautiful in Korean architecture. So the architecture really has harmony with the mountain. And if you go to a place like Andong, Hae traditional village, I used to go there also and draw. The way that the village sits inside the river is very, very special. Everything fits into the shape of the nature instead of just making its own order on top. So I think for this Korean tradition, I think about what we say in Korean, Gangsan.
Karlsson.
Yeah, river and mountain. And all of the architecture is about finding some kind of deep connection with that Kang and that San. When I think about contemporary architecture, I think of Gangnam. I think about all of this crazy dynamic time in Korea, 1980s, 90s, 2000s, with just glowing signs everywhere, animated facades, K-pop, and really, really exciting, dynamic innovation. So really, I think that's something that I feel is a super contrast, especially in a culture that has, in such a short period, there has been so much change.
Yeah, just then, did you bring something in to show your old memories? And
Yes, I did actually, and I was going to show you because this is the sketchbook that I was when I first arrived in Gyeongju. You can see 9th of August 1999.
Wow.
Yeah, so exactly 25 years ago, and it was my first time living in Korea after I was a small child, and so I was just drawing all of the things that I could see, and so these are those traditional elements, Korean pottery, you know, like the teapot, Korean doors. I found them so beautiful, and the way that doors are made, and then if you look in this. But then you have contemporary next
yeah.
Namjoon. Yeah, TV Buddha.
Yeah, TV Buddha. Yeah.
So it's already this contrast.
Yeah.
On one page is 도자기, and another one is 현대미술. Right?
Yeah.
So for instance here, 서학서원, you know, looking at the traditional architecture, the space is always in relation to the trees in the background. The shape of the roof, I found these very, very beautiful. Also, the lightness of this architecture and then the heaviness of the roof. I feel this is also something that really feels very special to me in Korean traditional architecture. And so here, again, in one of the Confucian academies here, Oksan Sowon near Gyeongju, you can see just the relationship, all of the individual care. So the detail is very, very interesting. And what I found really fascinating here, also Koreans, we are known maybe for many hundreds of years for something called 손재주.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we have like really, really good craftsmanship. So it comes all the way from pottery all into the architecture, and you see that in this traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is quite in your kind of very detailed or kind of memories about Korean architecture in Gyeongju.
Yes.
Yeah, it is something of very Buddhist tradition and also some Joseon styles and a kind of temples is from, of course, in Silla and Goryeo and some are kind of the traditions in Joseon all mixed kind of in under the name of tradition. But I didn't think about the kind of the hand skills. I think that hand skills means very careful watching.
Yes.
Yeah, observing
Yes.
what is the beauty, what is the kind of Kang and Sun, or kind of river and mountain, what is the trees. I think it is a kind of very sensitive in nature and circumstances and peoples and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was in Gyeongju, I had a teacher. I started to study some of the Korean traditional architecture, and I had a teacher who was a master carpenter. His name was Shin-Young-hun.
Oh.
Yeah, and he used to take us around, and he would show all the details, what was important and why. And from that, I also learned some of these theories about what is that sensitivity of Korean aesthetic. So maybe it's something where it does not have to be the most aggressive, but you can still have confidence even within the flow of the nature. So when you look at the very representative Japanese temple structure, you see the top line very straight, perfectly straight. And in the Korean, always we have like just like this, you know, the curve. And the same with the chama. So I think that for me, you could say that the approach is the same, that in Korea there is a curve, there's a softness, but then we go with the flow. So this to me is something, go with the flow of nature, but then contemporary, go with the flow of technology. So maybe there's something similar that we can say from the Gangsan into the Gangnam, now there's a new flow. There's a new wave of technology, AI, globalization, and Koreans are able to match with that. So it looks very different. Maybe it's more disconnected from nature in some ways, but then it connects to a different kind of flow that's coming. Yeah.
I like your words, the flow. It is flow from nature, a flow of the change, and I think it is quite good match the Korea wave.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes I want to know what is the beauty and what is the aesthetics in architecture. How can you describe the beauty in Korean architecture?
Beauty in Korean architecture, I think about when I start with the traditional architecture, I think of a place like Joonghyun. Yeah. Tranquility.
Yeah.
And kind of like a stability. Yeah. Hundreds of years and just one generation, another generation, and then this architecture becomes very beautiful. It's a super long. This was Zaha Hadid's favorite building when she was my teacher, and she always said, Jeongmyo, that's her favorite project in Korea. And I agree. I think it's very, very beautiful. I think that there is that feeling of sensitivity, of rhythm, and quietude is one aspect that then I see again in some of the contemporary architecture. One of my favorite architecture in Korea is Paju Book City.
Oh, Paju Book City.
Yes, the whole city is like one architecture. And it was envisioned also by actually Korean architects working with British architect, together with Lee Gi-young, the founder. And I love the way that the Asia Muna Center, so the main central space, they have a place called Jihae Soup, which I love the name. It means, I guess, Forest of Wisdom. And they've built this beautiful corten steel, very contemporary, corten steel concrete, together with the wetland. So there's a small river that goes through, and each of these volumes, it does not change the course of the river, but it just fits exactly inside. And you have the reeds, the 갈대, coming up all around, and you can walk directly from this very contemporary architecture. Maybe inside you have 15-meter ceiling with just books, shelves going up, 3 stories inside one big space. And then you could walk directly out and you're just on this Korean, exactly like I described in Andong, like this Korean curving waterway with all of its reeds. And this connection between contemporary architecture and nature, I think, is a great potential of Korea.
Oh, I
for
like
Korean beauty.
Yeah, I like your words. A kind of something, a kind of connect with the tradition and very contemporary.
Yes.
Your word. And then I love Joonghyun and I love Pajubok city. And I think I feel something and from your aesthetic and vision, because Joonghyun is our tradition and of Confucianism.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. We respect our philosophy, and then Pajubok city is one of them, because in our Confucian tradition we respect the wisdom and kind of reading books, and then I think it is a kind of one of very core aesthetic idea and of education too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but how do you feel about this kind of contrast in tradition and contemporary? Just I heard you're a kind of very special box. There's a lot of some photos and you take in Korea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. No, I can show you actually. You said that Korean. When I said 손재주, you said Korean traditionally spends a lot of time looking carefully at things. And so for me, besides drawing, also was to take photographs. So you can see, for instance, here I have some small pictures. These are very small ones I took. So here I think this is 불국사, 석가탑.
Yeah.
And this is this represents again some of that simplicity and then the connection with nature. But it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And Joonghyun is very powerful.
It is really powerful.
It's not worried to be too simple. It's confidently simple. So I
confidently simple.
Yes, yes. So I think that this is very beautiful.
It is early morning or evening?
This is
Evening
early
time?
morning.
Early morning.
This is 4 a.m., 4:30 a.m. Yeah. Yeah. And then also, I think looking here, for instance, Magoksa Temple. Yeah.
공주 area.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sound of the bell with the fish as the wind blows. This is also something about sensitivity. That even though there's a beautiful temple architecture, that this detail and this is also represented, every small detail. It's very carefully crafted. 손재주.
손재주.
Yeah. 손재주 최고. Yeah. So, and there's another word that for the English-speaking audience, I hope they can learn, which is 아기자기.
아기자기.
Yeah, 아기자기 is a word that maybe it's a bit difficult to describe in English exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, it is,
아기자기.
when I asked this question, I arrived in Gyeongju and I asked the people there, tell me about Korean aesthetic, tell me about Korean architecture. They said, it is 아기자기. And I said, what is 아기자기? And they said, it is something that is, it's not just, it's very soft, it is kind of cute, it has a kind of, how would you describe 아기자기 in English?
아기자기, yeah, it is something cute, but it is a kind of warm-hearted.
Yeah, it's warm-hearted, yes.
And then just make something happen, and a kind of other people feel happy.
Yeah, and it has diversity. So it's something does not have to be, as I said before, perfectly straight.
Yeah, no.
There's a small curve, or there is something slightly different.
Yeah.
And I always found, because the representative for me about Korean beauty is 한국 소나무, Korean pine tree. Yeah. So when I think again of maybe Europe or other parts of Asia, this perfectly straight tree.
Yeah.
This is not what what we think of when we imagine Korean tree. Right? Korean tree is really like this. And so I think that this idea of going with the flow, being able to react, this is something that feels, maybe this is something that is about there. But as you say, then when we go from Gangsan to Gangnam, then this is my picture from Gangnam.
Yeah.
This is Gangnam-daero in 2002 when I went back and I was taking photographs. And this is something which is about maybe the energy of Korean contemporary life. All of these signs and so much excitement and energy. And I did not think of this as just maybe bad or ugly. I thought this is just something. Here you can see even the step of the stair is a surface for advertisement. You know? So everywhere, like if we're going to make a business, somehow we're going to succeed. You know, like everything. You know? So you have to try your best. This is a very big part of Korean energy, and I think that one more word for the international audience: 내공. What is 내공? Yeah?
Inner power.
Inner power.
Inner power.
Yeah. So I think that this is something that I think characterizes Korean beauty. So when we talk about Gangnam style, and if you listen to Psy talk about what it requires to become like the first 1 billion views on YouTube, he talks about not, it's so great, it's so nice. He talks about his bleeding feet. Yeah? That he has to dance this dance, you know, just for 5 hours every day, you know, one night after another night. On the surface, you know, we say like a 백조, like a swan. You know, on the surface, it's like very, very elegant. It has simple power. Yeah. Underneath, it's like really, really moving very hard. So I think that this is another thing that I see when I think about. I really respect all of these people. Maybe from architectural kind of aesthetic or urban planning, you say, let's bring this under control. But I think there's also something about the indomitable spirit of Korea. So I find this very beautiful in some way.
Oh, wow! It is. I know that I feel your passion. Your inner power. Just from, I think it is from our your and a kind of Korean blood. And also just you are very sensitive to catch both beauties from very traditional Gyeongju Bulguksa and Gyeongju Seokgatab, and from very contemporary Gangnam. Yeah. Would you please tell me about your architecture, and after you understand and appreciate both Korea tradition and contemporary, how have you created your own architecture in UK?
Yes. So, no, thank you. It's a great question, and I really appreciate that you ask first about my Korean heritage and also about Korean beauty and Korean architecture, because when I talk about my architecture, also I always begin with the heritage and the story. So I believe, and I've always believed, that companies don't make architecture, people make architecture. So architect Kang DaeHwa makes architecture, or in my team, architect Michał Wojtkiewicz, and he makes architecture. Or other team member, everybody who is designing, they need to understand themselves first and their story and their roots, and then they can make something. So whenever I talk about my architectural journey and my architectural work, I always begin actually with the picture of Bulguksa, the picture of Seokgatab. I also begin with picture of my childhood in Oregon, in America, because I was there on the Pacific Ocean every summer. I was in the mountains, Cascade Mountains, and nature was the most important thing for me when I was a child. That's what was surrounding me always. And maybe this is why I was very drawn to the Korean Confucian Academy or the temples when I went to Korea. But this is really, for me, the source of all of the inspiration. Comes from these two things that we have been talking about. Nature as the inspiration, and then observing, as you say. First, observe. So whenever we make something, begin by, not my first instinct is just to say, I want to put this here, but first really understand, draw it, listen to the environment, and analyze, but also not just intellectually analyze, but feel the spirit of the place, and then find something that can have maybe like a harmony in there. Yeah. So for me, this is maybe the starting point of my architecture. Of course, architecture also has technology. Architecture has a style, and then there's a contemporary moment. So the time of architecture is important. So I'm an architect in 21st century. So of course, then my architecture is not a traditional architecture, it's a 21st century architecture. And I did my training for 10 years. I directed designs with Zaha Hadid here in London before I made my office 10 years ago. So she had a teacher, she had a lot of influence on me as well. So this fascination with new technology, with beauty in architecture, I think really she watered my plant. She gave me a lot of inspiration. But finally, for me, it has to do with connection with nature and ultimately deeper question, maybe that we search for in Joonghyun, about our place in the world.
Yeah.
So what we talk about, wisdom. So beauty built with wisdom. This is what we say in my studio. And I like to think about architecture in time. So our buildings that we design now, is it something that somebody will appreciate in 50 years, in 100 years, in 150 years? That would be a goal for me when we are making architecture. And these are the questions we always ask our client. What would you like your grandchild, what can you tell your grandchild about this project you are building? What will be special? And I ask the designers in the studio, what is the thing that we can bring to this project that you can be proud to your grandchild will still say, that is so cool. I can't believe you did that project. Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
So that's something that really drives the philosophy of the studio.
I like your words, beauty in wisdom. Yeah. And then I visited the OWO. Just I didn't know it is your design, but it is beautiful. A kind of glass and pavilion. And then immediately I feel it is like a lotus. Yeah. And the lotus in front, there is a kind of small water.
Yes.
And like a vessel.
Yeah.
So my imagination is, wow, it is like a lotus blossom, like in the temple. And it is it's all my kind of imaginations, inspirations from very Korean aesthetics.
Yes.
But after I came back to my office and I searched, who is the architect? But I realized it is your design. Yeah. So tell me more about just your idea and your aesthetics, your design for OWO.
Yes, absolutely. So I have a picture here actually that I brought, which gives a good feeling for the project. So here you can see the pavilion you describe. It's made with glass and mirror stainless steel. Yeah. It's a material we use a lot. And then the large pool of water you described. And we also designed all the landscape in this space. So individual cobblestones. And it sits inside a very historical building, which used to be the Ministry of Defense building, old war office. Yeah. You go to the office to make war. You know? So that's what it was for.
Yeah.
And it was Ministry of Defense for 80 years. And then now, finally, it has become more open for international visitors. It's becoming a Raffles Hotel, very nice hotel and residential. And so the design, they asked us, how can we create more life in this courtyard? Of course, because I'm Korean, maybe have some experience with courtyard. As you saw in Bulguksa, I studied many courtyards, Madang, Jungjeong. So this is something, of course, very close to my heart. And as I say, the first thing is to look for a way to harmonize with the existing. So we did many studies of different shapes, different forms, and when you begin with a circular form, then it has no corners. So it does not create any aggressive action to surrounding buildings. So this is something why it's round in the top view, but also when you look from the side, it's also round in all directions. Maybe what you can see like here. So you can see here that it's a soft building. And I think that for me, this was very important, that we need to be respectful to the existing context. And I learned that from this Korean traditional architecture, always very respectful to context, the way we are respectful to the previous elders in Confucian society. And then once we develop this idea, then it needs some architectural form. And so for us, really, this idea of the mirror, it's a bit like, you could say even, this is the top view.
Yeah.
Almost like water, like liquid metal. Yeah. So one can say the building is there, but it's also not there. Yeah. So because it reflects, depending on the context, it's always reflecting the color of what is around. Yeah. So for me, this is something that drives the design, and eventually so much inspiration from nature, as you say. So I love mathematics and geometry, and something that could be so organic and really feels in a courtyard where, for historical reason, they do not believe they should put greenery or trees to respect the existing architecture. Then maybe the architecture can be like nature, but made from human materials. So that's why we can have this, and then also we can bring water, and then even the floor, it's all like the same pattern as the architecture. It's all one thing.
Just I feel this area is like something in Korea Celadon tea bowl.
I love that. I never thought of this way.
Yeah,
but
it is
I love
a
that.
kind of water, and then the kind of lotus design, because it is exactly same aesthetics of the Korea period, when have a tea and the green color and water, and then just the inside the lotus patterns.
Yes, I love that analogy actually, and we actually, I can say, for instance, one of our projects in Korea. This is another project. So this is community headquarters, and this is again we use mirror, and this time we make a tree. Silver tree. And so this was because this building used to be very dark underneath, and so by putting mirror underneath, it adds more space, feels like double the height and much more light inside. And again, we cannot grow a plant in the dark, so then the architecture can be like this, and then the pattern can be very organic. So from the tree, then all of the pattern it wraps, and then you have in granite, we create also more like soft, organic pattern. So maybe this is one theme that is useful to think about is, as I said, powerful simplicity, but also confident and simple.
Also, I feel some power. It is very simple, but it is like some power, because it is the same idea of the Joonghyun. Joonghyun is very simple, but confidence and very strength. In inner depth. Inner deep mind.
내공. So then maybe one more thing I can show in here in my secret box. Here's one more project in Korea. I told you I love Pajubuk City. This is building in Pajubuk City, Rainbow headquarters, and the concept here is to the publishing house wants to publish the stories of not the famous people, but the ordinary people who rebuilt Korea after the Korean War. So maybe small number of copies, 500 copies, 1,000 copies of somebody like opera singer or somebody like an architect or somebody like a school teacher, not like general or president. And so we made a 100-year staircase with bookshelf with 100 shelves each year of the 20th century. And so as you walk up, you can see the books in the year from that year that these people are born. But then the architecture also is creating with Hyosuk, special volcanic stone. Feels like a kind of layer of history as well. So I think that architecture has this power to make us think about outside of our daily life.
Yeah.
So this will be there maybe when I'm gone, or someday, what will somebody in the next generation think? Yeah.
It's like a monument, a kind of some memories of monument, because all books has a kind of everybody is a kind of, all ordinary people's a kind of writing and then preserved here. Because sometimes I think before 19th century, very limited people can write.
Yes.
And can read.
Yes.
And just only really the very small number of people can publish.
Yes.
But now everybody can buy a book, and more people publish a book. So it is totally different in era after 20th century.
Yes.
So everybody has their own voice.
Yeah.
But I love your idea, just to kind of have the wonderful, beautiful space for books.
Yeah.
Everybody's voice are there, and
Yes.
just I imagine just in the evening, all a kind of writers and talking
to each other. The books are
Yeah.
talking to each other. Yes, it's a wonderful.
I just understand more about your architecture. And 21st century is a technology in era. And now just we use the digital technology every day.
Yes.
So just I want to have your idea and learn your idea and how just you can connect an architecture of your architecture, 21st century architecture with this digital culture or digital technology. Or digital heritage of architecture.
Yeah, I think it's a very important topic, and we are doing actually several things. One is that digital interface with architecture. So in this building, actually, we designed. I will show you later. We designed. The owner lives on the top floor, and we designed. We made the staircase so beautiful so that it's more pleasure to take the stair than the elevator. And so we made a digital app. So when you get to the top of the stair, you can tap your face, and then it says that you climbed 4 stories. And then the family, 4 people, they can compete. Who is doing more? And it shows the graph, how many. So maybe the building is like early version of Apple Watch. You know? So you're doing this. So when we're doing these type of project, then we are thinking about engaging with the user or the well-being. Then often we use digital technology to collect the data and then to use the data to have some influence on the well-being. Maybe here there is one more picture from, I will just check. I have too many pictures. Every architect is too excited about their work. They show too much. Let me see if I have it. If I don't, I will talk about something differently. Yeah. No, I think that otherwise in our architecture, often we are using like a kind of human interface where there's a multimedia experience. So you can sit we made a flower temple. You can sit inside the flower temple. And then when you sit there and you turn on the chair, then the plants, they sense which way you are facing, and then they speak back to you with light and sound. So this becomes a kind of physical, digital interface of architecture. But then we do also fully digital architecture. So what I was going to show you here we're working with Generation Z, yeah, and
Gen Z. We
yeah,
call
Gen Z, yeah, and we start to design virtual space. Yeah, so this is actually a space where up to 50 people
Wow.
can be in the platform together, and they're walking around inside, and it's a kind of virtual gathering space and virtual gallery. Here you can see this is me actually, DaeWha, Kang DaeHwa, giving a small introduction to the project in a lecture, and all of these people just from around the world. There's even one of our employee, Cutie, Korean, sitting there. So we started to do purely virtual architecture also. Here you can see like this kind of space, and people can hang their own digital artwork inside and can invite people, and it's a very nice way to show your work, to walk around inside. And then what happened? We start to work. We start to work with Gen Z. They come for internship at our office in the summer, and so Gen Z they work with us they make their designs. So they do a competition, 16-year-olds, and then the winner, then we build it for them in virtual. So it's architecture is very expensive to build. So virtual becomes a chance to include more of the next generation inside. So you can see there. And then even young children, 11-year-old children that we work with them, and they make their designs, and then we turn them into like real virtual design. And right now we have an exhibition at the V&A Museum in South Kensington of the work of the children. So here you can see, you can walk inside the painting, and then actually it's like a full space.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's like a kind of virtual version of the architecture. So I think that this is coming also. We need to think about the mixture between digital and also physical architecture, and what it should mean for Gen Z. Because I think, this is in Fortnite. We make also in Fortnite platform, we make educational experience using the children's designs. So I think it's very important, as I say, in Korean culture, go with the flow. So now there is a futuristic question of the future, the digital flow. So I don't think that the world will wait for us if we say we are architects, we only do physical architecture. But also we need to remember that only digital is a very anxious place.
Yes.
You have many mental health issues. You have a lot of anxiety, and maybe both social and political upheaval that comes when you don't have to face somebody face to face. It's really easy to be very mean or very insulting or very aggressive. But in physical space, then we come together. Yeah. So you have to really ask yourself the question, how do we make the balance? I think a good example, for instance, BTS. Yeah? So it's not the same to only watch on YouTube BTS. You can see that everybody wants to go and see BTS to perform. So maybe it's the same if you think about World Cup 2002 in Gwanghwamun. And all of the Koreans, a huge wave of people watching in person. Just to watch on TV is not the same as to be in that plaza, of course. So we need to remember that still our body and our physical connection is important. So physical architecture is still important. But of course, the digital is an amplifier. Then this is how BTS can become so powerful because they can reach so many. But it's a question for me of deep versus broad. So you can reach many people, but it's much thinner. And if you are in person like this, we make an effort, a sacrifice to take our time and to spend this time together. It's deeper. So for me, I think physical architecture, it's like a deep anchor for us. And then digital architecture, it's about broad, very wide connection. So I think we all need to think about this topic if we want to have a healthy society moving forward.
I think it is very nice to kind of explain a kind of thing and depth.
Yeah.
Because I just try to imagine what is the future and way of connection between the real and the digital, a kind of virtual world. Maybe just in the near future, it can be very mixed.
Yes,
In very diverse in ways and directions. But always, architecture is we have to live. Our body needs the house. Our body needs the office. But sometimes we spend more time in space, in digital space.
Yes.
So, but just I like your both and very physical space and very digital space.
Yeah.
How can you tell a kind of next generations and Gen Z generations, a kind of some inspirations, a kind of including about from your architecture or other digital heritage or digital architecture in various directions?
Yeah, I think for me, for Gen Z, I say that the most important thing is that they are living in a very exciting time. So to think in a very positive way, that there is so much change. You cannot imagine how quickly everything is changing and nobody knows what's going to come. So don't be afraid, but go with the flow, we say, like Koreans. And at the same time, remember your simple confidence, to still don't forget who you are and where you came from. Because I think that the digital is a huge opportunity, but if we don't have something to hold on to of who I am, where I came from, then I may find myself floating and losing myself and not to be sure even what is real, what is important, who I am, where I'm going. And I think this is why we see a lot of anxiety numbers going very high for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So it's something to figure out. So maybe for architecture, this is something that's very nice. You could be both designing the virtual world of the future. I think Korea is in a very good position for that. We have very strong game technology, we have very strong digital technology, we have Samsung, we have LG. But at the same time, I think that we can still invest in our physical body, in our physical home, in our physical city. If you imagine something like also even participation in politics, remember that your physical body is a real power. We had Hangang this year with the Nobel Literature Prize, and she documents many of these moments where people use their body with great power, 내공, right? And if it's only on digital, just few tweets, I think you're not going to make this change. So maybe committing to physical architecture, physical life, and make sure you have the balance right. For me, this is the most important thing.
So I can feel the balance and flow. Flow. Just if we don't miss the flow from the real and world to virtual world, or from virtual world to real world with our body and spirit, we don't miss the flow, we can make something different. Because flow can connect.
I think so.
We have some of our audience from Korea. So just for Korean audience, would you please tell just a kind of very some stories or your aesthetics in Korean too?
네, 감사합니다. 아무래도 한국 건축가로서는 이제 세계적인 건축 활동을 하면서 아무래도 일단은 항상 우리나라라고 표현해요. 저는. 그래서 그 말이 되게 마음에 들더라고요. 그래서 우리나라, 우리의 문화유산 그런 걸 생각해서, 그리고 우리의 미래유산 앞으로 생각하면서 뭐가 이제 우리의 컨트리뷰션이 무엇이 될 건지를 고민을 좀 많이 하는 편이에요. 그래서 지금은 좀 사실은 커리어에 아직도 좀 초기 부분이지만 자연에서 영감을 많이 얻을 수 있는 그 아주 강력한 의지력 그리고 이 자연의 흐름을 따를 수 있는 그래서 건축을 하면 그러면 어떻게 그 대지나 그 전체적인 환경을 살리면서 건축을 만들 수 있는지 그리고 살리는 것뿐만 아니고 환경도 살리면서 우리가 가지고 있는 뭔가의 그 새로운 것도 그 환경에서 힘을 얻어오는 거야. 그러니까 올드워스 보면 그 파빌리언만 그냥 단락 어떤 주차장 안에서 놓는 거 하고 이 웅장한 이 중정 안에 이 전통 영국 제국의 상징물 속에서 이제 이런 아주 좀 섬세하고 어떻게 보면 되게 델리케이트하고 이제 약한 건축을 거기다가 딱 이렇게 만들어 놓는 것이 또 다른 타워를 얻잖아요.
네.
그래서 어떻게 보면 이런 역사적인 건물 속에서 이거 모든 거를 다 바꿀 수 없다. 너무너무 안 됐다. 어렵다. 그런 것보다는 엄청난 기회라고 생각하자. 그래서 저는 약간 그런 낙천주의자예요. 그래서 항상 이 어려운 대지가 더 마음에 들고 그냥 쉽게 편하게 그냥 아무런 건축 형태가 들어갈 수 있는 그런 건축보다는 그 우리가 만든 교회를 보면 이제 1600년 시기에 만드는 교회 속에서 건축을 넣어야 되는데 정말 어렵더라고요. 현대 건축을 거기다 넣는 게. 그런데 근데 충분히 고민을 하면 뭔가 현대 건축을 거기에 넣을 수는 있다. 조화롭게 go with the flow 하면서. 네. 그래서 그렇게 하면서 우리가 그러면 더 어려운 거를 잘하는 건축가가 될 수 있고 어려움을 잘 겪을 수 있는 이제 나라가 될 수 있고 그러면서 이제 인정을 받고 이제 점점 이제 더 어려운 거를 하면서 좀 더 보람을 느낄 수 있지 않을까. 약간은 그런 생각이 많이 들어요.
네.
저는. 네.
이제 말씀을 들어보니까 그 흐름이 어떤 주변하고도 어울려지면서도 또 다른 흐름을 만들어내는 그런 말씀까지 해주신 것 같습니다.
네. 네, 감사합니다.
Yeah, it is today we are quite special because when we talk about Korean culture, Korean beauty, and in London, UK, it is quite a special opportunity to have you and share your experience, your aesthetics, your architecture here in London.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
너무 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
아주 좋은 시간이었습니다.
네. And would you please say one word to the people who loves Korean culture and watch this video?
Yes. For those of you who are interested in Korean culture, I'm so thrilled that you're here listening to us talk about Korean architecture. It's very meaningful to me as a Korean architect. And please do go to Korea and experience it yourself. You won't be disappointed.
Today, we talked about Korean architecture and the aesthetics of Korean architecture with architect Kang DaeHwa. Thank you so much for your time and to be with us. Thank you.